Tonight, the RCMP say they need more resources to deal with rising crime on the Northern Avalon.
Statistics show that crime is on the increase in Conception Bay North, and municipal leaders are concerned.
The numbers are pretty staggering.
Yes, I would say that the place is not quite as safe as it used to be.
That story coming up.
This was a well-scripted, prepared distraction, and I think the minister should be called out on it. How did we get here? How did we get here?
The province is highlighting wins with heart and stroke care, but one health critic isn't buying it, saying it's spin to distract from controversial spending.
About to ride the most eastern feature you can in Canada, right there. That's the Atlantic.
When people think of Cape Spear, they don't often think of snowboarding, but those people aren't Craig McMorris. On a recent trip, he came here to do some filming. We're going to show you that story coming up.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Police in Conception Bay North are pleading for more resources from government. This after an uptick in calls last year for everything from mental health crises to driving collisions. But as our Terry Roberts reports, the Justice Minister is giving the Mounties a frosty response.
This crumpled patrol car rammed by a man on a rampage. 2 officers slightly injured. A collection of seized firearms, some of which are illegal. A driver crashing this pickup before fleeing the scene. This dangerous use of a vehicle outside of a funeral home. Just a few recent examples of what police officers are dealing with in Conception Bay North.
It's a very busy district within my area of responsibility.
The RCMP operates detachments in Harbour Grace and Bay Roberts. Calls for help from area residents spiked by nearly 14% last year. In December alone, there were 57 assaults, 53 responses to people experiencing a mental health crisis, 19 incidents of impaired driving, and 35 vehicle collisions. Calls to the Bay Roberts detachment were up 36% in December. Prior to 2023, the demand for police services were trending downward.
Whether I'm analyzing that in terms of pure call volume or calls per police officer, this is a busy spot.
The numbers are pretty staggering.
Members of the Joint Council of Conception Bay North have taken notice.
Take September in Bay Roberts in 2023. Personal offenses 38, impaired driving 12, mental health acts 30, collisions 18. It's a lot.
This group of elected municipal leaders represents communities from Brigus to Victoria, more than 30,000 residents.
But the numbers are, they're really frightful.
They're not calling it a crisis, but they're worried.
When you hear all that, yes, I would say that the place is not quite as safe as it used to be.
Some crimes have shocked the region, like the unsolved murder of Adam Mercer in Harbour Grace 10 months ago.
That's real. And, again, I'm going to say it to you. It's attributed to the drugs.
So what's going on?
I see a lot of chronic and prolific offenders driving our call numbers up. And by those terms, I mean people trapped in a cycle such as addiction or a crime cycle, which sees them chronically repeating, whether that's a criminal act like a theft or a mental health crisis.
RCMP brass say its members are coping.
They're producing incredible work. They're working with a lot of confidence.
But say they need help. More officers, more admin staff.
We have asked for increases, and those discussions are ongoing.
But the Justice Minister says that won't happen. The RCMP's budget has swelled by $17 million. John Hogan says the force needs to address its chronic staffing shortage in areas outside the Avalon before it gets any more funding.
Yes, take care of your vacancy rates before there's further discussions about increasing budget. There's no point to give them money if the RCMP can't have members to fill those positions. The money's just not going to be used. With regard to that certain part of the province, it's very well staffed, is my understanding, compared to other regions.
Despite the staffing pressures, RCMP leaders say officers are working hard to tackle crime, including a drug trade that's getting more dangerous.
My message would be ask them to trust us as an organization.
Terry Roberts, CBC News, Conception Bay North.
In an unusual move, RCMP in Clarenville won't share the results of a blood sample taken from a driver involved in a fatal double crash last month. 2 women were killed as a result of the crash near Arnold's Cove 1 month ago. 22-year-old Erin Pretty died at the scene. 22-year-old Haley Keating later died in hospital. The 2 friends were on a day trip to Clarenville when their car collided with an SUV. At the time, police said the 71-year-old driver of the SUV showed signs of impairment. Well, today, police say the results of the driver's blood test are back, but they won't say what those results show. The RCMP would only say, in part, investigations such as these are complex in nature and require time to ensure that all available evidence is obtained and analyzed to determine if charges are appropriate. The investigation is continuing. A Canadian senator says she's closely watching what's unfolding at Her Majesty's Penitentiary. Kim Pate was saddened to hear of the death of inmate Seamus Flynn in December. Flynn's mother told CBC News her son had influenza, a bacterial infection, severe pneumonia, and sepsis. He died after being taken by ambulance from the prison. Pate says access to timely medical care in prison has always been an issue.
Unfortunately, it's all too familiar. People who have health issues who go untreated or aren't given access to specialists they're supposed to see, aren't taken to the hospital when they say they're in crisis. And I've seen it both for physical health, if you will, so health conditions that we think of that can be treated, whether it's cancer, heart conditions, diabetes, as well as for mental health issues that then result in people dying.
Well, Premier Andrew Furey defended the health authority spending tens of millions of dollars on travel nurses today, saying it was necessary to keep the healthcare system running. His comments come after a Globe and Mail investigation found that last year the province spent more than $35 million on out-of-province travel nurses in just 5 months. The contracts with private agencies like Canadian Health Labs included payments that sometimes exceeded $300 per hour per nurse. It also revealed payment for things like cable bills, cab rides, Walmart furniture, pet transportation, and an air fryer. Furey says he asked the health minister to investigate, but says using travel nurses came down to keeping ERs and wards open.
Sometimes things go off the rails for whatever reason. And I wouldn't dismiss this, and I meant to say it in my first answer. Even though we're reliant on them now, some of these contracts were awarded, as I understand it, back in 2021 when it was full crisis, post-pandemic, people were stressed and strained, and you need to weigh the risk-benefit equation of not having staff. And so, like many things that happened during the pandemic, maybe things were rushed in order to provide the continued level of care that was needed during a very anxious and stress time, both for individuals and the system alike.
Provincial health officials held a news conference today to outline improvements to heart and stroke care in Newfoundland and Labrador. But one health critic described the event as a distraction orchestrated to turn the public's attention away from the province's nursing crisis. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
The Deputy Minister of Health Transformation, the Health Minister, the Clinical Chief of Cardiac Care, and a VP of Health Services Transformation, all gathered at the Confederation Building to talk about heart and stroke care.
These things are really important, right? I've been at this a long time, and this is transformative. I've never felt this kind of input, focus, and progress.
They talked about how virtual care is improving treatment for heart failure patients. They spoke about the transportation service called Heart Force One that's helping heart patients get treatments more quickly. In the past year, it's made 16 flights carrying 118 patients. And they outlined how access to surgery and drugs for strokes has improved. 20% of stroke patients who need clot-busting drugs are getting them. It used to be 10%.
So to summarize, treatment is now being used in the province. It is leading to better outcomes for heart and stroke patients. They are getting the crucial care that they need sooner, and we are expanding on the use of these treatments to reach even more patients.
This was a well-scripted, prepared distraction. And for me, I can't accept it. I'm the health critic for my caucus, for my party. And I think the minister should be called out on it.
But Evans says the government is using this event to try to turn the public's attention away from the tens of millions of dollars they're spending on travel nurses.
They tried to find a good news story to put forward as smoke and mirrors to detract from really the scathing report that came out in the Globe and Mail.
Again, Osborne said travel nurses were a necessary evil, and their high cost was crucial to keeping health services available.
You know, if you were to go back in time to when the health authorities made the decision to contract the agencies, you would probably have undoubtedly have made the same decision. The alternative would have been more procedures cancelled, more services not available, more emergency departments closed.
Evans says paying travel nurses was a quick fix when the money should have been spent long ago on improving the working conditions of nurses and preventing the nursing shortage that we have.
Why do we have nursing shortages? Because our poor old nurses are burnt out, they don't have no quality of life, the mental stress, the physical stress, and also the stress from their families because they don't have quality of life. That wasn't addressed.
Osborne said the government is working hard to fill the more than 700 nurse vacancies in Newfoundland and Labrador. He expects the province's reliance on travel nurses will be greatly reduced in the future. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, staying with healthcare, the province's health department says it made job offers to nearly 70 international nurses in Dubai. This during Premier Andrew Furey's healthcare recruitment trip to the United Arab Emirates. But they will still need to go through the nursing regulatory body's vetting process in order to work in Newfoundland and Labrador. Elizabeth Whitten has that story.
The Premier's trip to Dubai was part of a push to address a shortage of nurses by looking internationally. Of the 68 nurses with job offers, 29 have passed the National Council licensure examination. Lynn Power is the executive director of the province's College of Registered Nurses. She says all those nurses will have to register with the college and pass the exam.
There's not a nurse that comes to the province that don't cross our threshold, and there's not a nurse that can work in the province without having a license and a current license to practice with us.
Debbie Malloy is NL Health Services Vice President of Human Resources. She says the majority of the nurses are from India and the Philippines. And Malloy says there's a clause to ensure they stick around in Newfoundland and Labrador.
So we do ask for a 3-year return in service commitment from the nurses who are coming over. And we're very hopeful that, like many of their colleagues, they'll fall in love with Newfoundland and Labrador and decide to make this their permanent home.
Malloy says these nurses will have to go through the immigration process and could be in the province in the next 6 months. Elizabeth Whitten, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, lots of blue sky today meant we got a beautiful view of the province from space and taking a nice look at the ice, too. There was a lot of movement in the ice today. In fact, 20-kilometer progression to the southeast for that ice movement today. But lots of sunshine this afternoon, thanks to a nice big ridge of high pressure. That's also why we're seeing some of these colder temperatures out there as well. Certainly lots up across the big land and really spilling into the island as well. Temperatures only into the minus single digits for this afternoon. Wind chills as well, making it feel more like the teens. But yeah, it's that ridge of high pressure. We do have some cloud cover moving in as we speak, and the reason for that is this area of low pressure to the south. That is already prompting, or has been prompting, some special weather statements for the eastern half of the island. We'll talk all about what to expect when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, being a pedestrian can feel precarious at the best of times, especially during the winter months. There's been an active police presence at a school crosswalk in Gander this week. We caught up with the crossing guard to talk about the daily dangers they experience sharing the road with drivers.
Good morning. My name is Craig Tarrant. I do cross guard for Gander Elementary. 7 years now. Down there it's really cold. The wind is down, like the way the wind is down there is unreal, right? But gotta get used to it, that's it. It's hectic most times. People don't care. They just keep, you know, they don't slow down in the school zone like they should. So that's why the RCMP is here for the last 2 or 3 days now trying to cut it down. People just running the stop sign, don't even pay attention to the light flashing, right? Speed is the biggest thing, and cell phones. People being on cell phones, not paying attention. Well, you gotta have eyes in the back of your head. You gotta be looking around all the time. All right. Like I've had to stop kids on one side of being lit so they wouldn't get hit for vehicles going right on through. First, when I started up at the Gander Academy, I was at the crosswalk and a car just kept on going, never stopped for the sign. Figured kids was on that side of me, they could go on the other side of me, but it struck me with a mirror at that time. Pay more attention to the signs and the light, because you're welcome. It's kids, you know. I should never hit me than a kid. Everyone comes across says thank you. Every one of them says thank you. And I had one young girl there just before Christmas, brought me a hot chocolate this morning.
Well, the RCMP have issued several verbal and written warnings this month to speeding and distracted drivers near Gander Elementary. Well, the sound of the snowplow making the way down the street might be music to the ears of some people, but for others it means having to shovel out again. There is a technology that can help. It's called a plow gate, and it prevents snow from getting pushed back into driveways. But the technology hasn't taken off in Newfoundland and Labrador just yet. The CBC's Mike Moore explains.
We had 80 centimeters of snow over 5 days, but the challenge is we had them in 3 different storms. The first one was 45, the next one was 25, the next one was 10, and snow clearing is a challenge which we're up to when we get a storm a week apart. We can clean up the city, but this set of storms was very challenging because we had to go back to square one after every snowfall.
Is anyone tired of shoveling yet? I know I am. We're in the middle of another winter and we don't know if we're going to get more snow and how severe that will be. You're usually out here for maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, and then when your driveway's done, you head back inside, but then you hear the plow coming. And in unpredictable winters that we're accustomed to in Newfoundland and Labrador, eventually you start to see mountains like these begin to grow. We see the same frustrations on social media every winter. The plow comes by, pushes snow back into your driveway, then you have to come out again and clear it just to get your car out. Technology does exist called plow gates that go on the end of the blade. They drop before the plow gets to your driveway, which prevents the snow from getting pushed back in. Now, plow gates aren't used in Newfoundland and Labrador right now. They are popular in small towns in New Brunswick and Ontario, but I did ask Mayor Dave Aker of Mount Pearl what he thought about the technology.
Well, we did an internal evaluation where we saw them in the past were mostly being used in rural settings with driveways that are well spaced out, typically being used by graders as opposed to what we use here, which are dump trucks with blades called flyers, and also with loaders, and also used in an environment where you're not getting a lot of snow. So probably might work with the first snowfall of the year, maybe the last, but 3 snowfalls, 80 centimeters in 5 days, probably wouldn't work so well. But no doubt everybody would have a thirst for them because the snow would not go in your driveway, but it has to go somewhere. So it's not a technology that involves lift in place. It just means pushing and sliding to the side. So what typically happens when you use those types of devices is the road gets narrower even quicker, which means that city services, including emergency services, garbage collection and the like, it makes it more challenging to do. And ultimately, someone has to come back and still clean that up. And what it means is that for residents who have driveways, if the roadway gets narrowed, their driveway gets even more longer.
Meanwhile, Mayor Aker says the jury's still out on how effective plow gates can be, and it all depends on snowfall type and snowfall amount. I tried to reach the city of St. John's, then the towns of Paradise and CBS to ask the same question, but none replied. Mike Moore, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Fred Hutton was sworn into the House of Assembly today in St. John's.
I, Frederick Charles Hutton, do affirm that I am fully qualified to hold the office of member for the District of Conception Bay East, Bell Island.
The Liberal candidate and prominent former journalist is the province's newest MHA. Hutton secured last month's by-election with 45.9% of the vote. His win marks the first time the District of Conception Bay East, Bell Island has switched parties since 2003.
For many tourists who come to Newfoundland and Labrador, a stop here at Cape Spear is a must. But professional snowboarder Craig McMorris is not just your average tourist. On a recent trip to St. John's, he came here, but not to see the scenic Atlantic views or the lovely lighthouse. What he wanted to do was find a rail slide to hit on his snowboard. And he did. And arguably the first time ever somebody has grinded the most easterly rail slide in Canada. Now, if this is something that you didn't know about, let me tell you.
We're about to ride the most eastern feature you can in Canada, right there. That's the Atlantic.
Kind of explored everywhere and everything. The way that we kind of do it is we get into town, we rent the car, we drive around, and we look at all the possible shooting locations, pick our favorite, the one that we think is going to work best, and go there and start filming and trying to do some amazing snowboard tricks on kind of urban features. One highlight that you've probably seen on Instagram is at Cape Spear. We kind of just went there. I think it's just very interesting, the most eastern point in North America. Go there, and there was a little wooden handrail, so we thought, why not try and hit it? And nobody was there. There was a little bit of snow, and it was kind of a good way to spend an afternoon. Sometimes Vancouver will get a couple freak storms, and maybe we'll get 1 or 2 days, but we're in the city. That was, you're looking over your right shoulder while you're sliding down the rail, and you see the mighty Atlantic, and it looked cold, and it looked everything that I've heard about. So I think that was definitely that was a once in a lifetime opportunity. So we took it. We hit a couple spots in and around downtown, but we kind of had to be very quick because the snow, when we were there was a good dump of snow when we got there, but our bags didn't show up for a day. And every single day it was kind of raining and melting a little bit, so we were losing snow. So we kind of had to stick maybe to some spots a little bit less walked on or foot trafficked on. So the snow was a little bit better, but it was really cool exploring obviously we got to go to Cape Spear and we went to Signal Hill and all those kind of things. So it was cool. Checked a lot of boxes for me. Everybody was so kind and so inviting. Sometimes when you're on a rail trip, they can be very hostile, especially when people don't understand what you're doing. When they show up to a spot and they're like, why are these guys just kind of hanging around with cameras? What are they up to? Where a lot of Newfoundlanders just came up and said, what are you guys doing? And heard us out and had such that's amazing. That's cool. You guys are outside doing some exciting stuff. I thought that was really refreshing to just be so welcomed by such a warm people.
Well, it's about a week too soon. We do have lots of snow. Quiet day today, though, to enjoy it. But we do have our next weather maker moving in. It's going to bring some rain for some of us. Get into the details when I come back.
Welcome back, Ashley. Anyone who saw the show last night saw that you were live in Central last night. You were out in Centerville, Wareham, Trinity, and Indian Bay. Those communities are holding their annual winter carnival. So what was it like out there?
Yeah, last night's turnout was absolutely incredible, but unfortunately, technical issues kept me from broadcasting inside the building last night. We are going to show you some of that a little later in the show, but before I hit the road this morning, I found some time to squeeze in one more event, their pancake breakfast. Have a look.
I'm a volunteer with the Winter Carnival Committee here in CWT IB, and my role was to get the school involved in the Winter Carnival. So I've partnered with Miss Perry, the vice principal, and her and I have done an amazing job getting the kids out in the community, and as you can tell, this breakfast is wonderful.
The breakfast was really good.
We're serving traditional Newfoundland breakfast, which is bologna and pancakes. Orange juice and apple juice was only supposed to be for children, but even the adults are enjoying it. So as you can tell, we're running out of some stuff, but we're still having fun.
I've been here since 6:30 today, getting everything ready for the kids' breakfast. We do breakfast every morning for our students, so this was a great way to get them out of the school, in with the community, and be able to have breakfast with everybody else.
We try to get the kids involved as much as we can. Some years it works, other years it doesn't, but Miss Perry has taken a very big leap with us, and it's working, and we're all enjoying it this morning. We've all been up since 6:30, so it's been fun. This particular breakfast, all the proceeds will go to the school, and the Winter Carnival Committee will be paying for all the children's breakfasts free. So we'll actually be giving a donation back to the school to help the school support their activities.
And I was able to try some of the breakfast this morning. It was actually the first time, I probably shouldn't admit this, but the first time that I had tried fried bologna, and it was delicious, so I'll certainly have it again. But a beautiful day for a drive as well across, at least from Central through to the Avalon today. Temperatures into the minus single digits, lots of sunshine out there. Temperatures up across Labrador were chilly for the most part, minus 17 in Nain, minus 11 in Lab City. But if you take a look at the temperatures from last night, very different story actually. 10 degrees warmer in Lab City, so feeling quite balmy. But temperatures across the island generally a degree or two above or below where you were sitting yesterday. And if we take a look at those current temperatures up across Labrador, minus 9 is what it is in Happy Valley Goose Bay. We've got a bit of a wind chill out there. More so across the island with those wind chills into the minus teens at the moment. So the temperatures up across Labrador are in fact the coldest that they're going to be over the next couple of days. Those temperatures are going to start to warm up as we see our next weather maker move in. But for the time being, we're sitting under that ridge of high pressure, which is keeping things generally quiet weather-wise. We do have some clouds and some flurries working their way across the big land, but that's about it. And some of that high cloud that's going to move in across the island is associated with that area of low pressure to the south. And again, that is going to bring in some milder air as we head through the next, through the weekend really is when we're really going to start to see some of that mild air move in. Ridge of high pressure is going to keep things quiet tonight across the island. Labrador, though, you are looking at that chance of some flurries overnight tonight. We may see some flurries along the south coast of the island and then potentially along the Strait of Belle Isle as well on either side, Labrador side, as well as the northern peninsula as we head through tonight. But other than that, that's about it. Temperatures are going to stay cold tonight as well. Generally into the minus teens across the island, a little warmer, a little milder for the northern peninsula, and then most of Labrador will be sitting somewhere between minus 10 to minus 8. Now note these temperatures, minus 8 in Lab City and minus 5 in Port aux Basques. We are starting to see the advance of some of that milder air, which is really just going to continue to warm up as we head through the next couple of days. Now, as far as tomorrow is concerned, we will see those clouds on the increase across the island. Labrador, you're still looking at some flurry activity or light snow heading towards central and coastal areas into the afternoon. But the next system will move in, starting its snow around 4 or 5 o'clock tomorrow night for the southern Avalon as well as the Burin Peninsula. And then eventually by the time we get to 6 or 7 o'clock, we should start to see some of that snow towards the metro area and even potentially for the rest of eastern Newfoundland. Now this is going to quickly change over to some freezing rain for the Avalon and the Burin Peninsula. Several hours of freezing rain expected through the evening and into the overnight. We'll eventually start to see some of that snow head towards central areas, mainly west of Clarenville is where we should see the majority of that snow. But it will develop through the overnight period. Eventually we'll see some warming, some warmer temperatures that should head up above zero across the island, across the Avalon rather. So this will change to rain by the time we get into the early morning hours on Friday. And then it actually quickly moves out. So by the time we get into 10 or 11 o'clock tomorrow, we should actually be seeing the end of that snow. Now, as far as the freezing rain potential is concerned, like I said, several hours certainly possible. We could be talking about 5 to 10, maybe even 10 to 15 millimeters of freezing rain by the time that is all said and done. And as far as rainfall amounts are concerned, the highest will be on the southeast coast of the Avalon, where we could pick up about 20 to as much as 30 millimeters of rain. And really not a big snowfall event, but we could be seeing anywhere from 5 to 15 centimeters through areas, mainly Grand Falls, Windsor, through to the Bonavista Peninsula, potentially into the afternoon. But again, temperatures will warm up, especially as we get into Friday, where we will see those temperatures well above zero. I'll get into those details when I come back a little later in the show.
I start thinking this as almost as Russian roulette. You know, you're putting the bullet in the chamber and you're trying to just wait whether you're going to be lucky. But the luck eventually is going to run out.
The province's chief medical examiner fears young people are especially at risk. We're talking about the rise in drug use and its deadly consequences coming up. Well, the province's chief medical examiner says the number of drug-related deaths continues to rise. Police are warning about 5 suspected drug-related deaths in the past week alone. Dr. Nash Denick sees it all, and this afternoon I sat down with him to hear more about the 5 people who died and why he feels young people are especially at risk.
It's very tragic because we are dealing about the individuals in their primes, from their 20s to early 40s. And yes, we are quite confident that these are drug-related deaths based on first investigation, the scene investigation, which in this case is typical drug scenes with multiple paraphernalia found next to the bodies. Even some of these bodies were found next to naloxone kits. And we did perform the autopsy, which we always do in the cases like this to rule out any underlying conditions which may contribute to that. When we're talking about very young individuals, I don't think that they've been using drugs for years. I think this is something that comes with the culture. Something comes sometimes with the peer pressure. Something comes with the experimentation. And just they're mostly hearing about feeling good and feeling high, but they're not hearing the stories as we are presenting it now. That these stories, they should be scared of starting the drugs now, especially the drugs that you cannot trust, because they are coming from the market that you cannot trust. So it is, you just don't need much. That's why we are avoiding the word overdose, because overdose is adopted in the public and they know what does that mean. But for the forensic pathologists, you don't need to overdose. Even the small dose can be lethal.
Right. Overdose suggests that you've taken too much of something.
That's right. But you don't have to take too much. You can just mix it even sometimes within the therapeutic levels. If you're mixing the drugs that shouldn't be mixed, you can die off.
Last time you and I talked, we were talking about the number of deaths that had been recorded. And I know you don't have the numbers for last year in totality because you're still waiting for results to come back. But can you give us a sense of where we're headed in terms of, are you seeing any trends? Are numbers going up? What's your sense of where things are
The
going?
numbers are going up. In 2022, so 2 years ago, we had 37 cases of accidental drug toxicity related deaths. 2023, which is the year which is still open with us, because again our results are some lagging behind. We have 57, and it's going to change probably. We're going to see a few more cases. So we are doubling up. Where all of this is, we are doubling up with the number of cocaine-related deaths. As I said before, it's a primary drug in this province. In January, based on my search of our database, we only had 2 cases, really, of which one was a fentanyl-related death, and these 2 cases are outside Metro. So just in February, we were dealing with 9 cases. You know, so we have a group of 5 cases that came in, but we have a previous group of 4 cases, of which 3 were outside the metro area, and 6 cases within the metro area. But we should be working on a younger population, the people who are just starting up using illicit drugs or thinking of, we have to really tell them the true story to scare them off. Because again, with the small quantity of the drugs now in the system, they can be detrimental and lethal. The people who are taking the drugs for the period of time, they already have, as I said, certain mental burdens, but they are also having issues with their general health, heart disease. Like with the cocaine, we know people who don't have a cocaine in their blood at the time when they die, after the period of using the cocaine for years, their heart looks like in somebody who is 80 years of age with coronary artery disease, blockages, enlarged heart, scarring of the heart. So there's always a risk. And I start thinking this as almost as Russian roulette. You're putting the bullet in the chamber and you're trying to just wait whether you're going to be lucky. But the luck eventually is going to run out.
at the annual Hospitality in Newfoundland and Labrador Conference and Trade Show. The hospitality and tourism business has changed so much since COVID, and all the major players are here. So we've decided to see what they have to say. Who's coming to Newfoundland and Labrador? What things do they want to see? What are they up to?
The main Francophone market is from Quebec. They all come with RV. They love camping. They love long distances. They love the nature of Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm Valerie Saltel. I'm the main coordinator for the Francophone Tourism Office in St. John's.
What more could everyone be doing in order to make sure that post-COVID tourism is back?
Welcoming people in a bilingual French and English. We would like to see more in the museums, in booking accommodation.
As with most businesses hospitality related, at the start of COVID, it was flipped on its head. Now this year, it's full steam forward. Everybody's, they're getting their big projects done, they're doing their renovations, they're upgrading, they're making the changes that they would have made 4 years ago now. So my name is Matthew Lewis. I'm with Lock International here in Atlantic Canada as my territory. We're based out of Quebec. We're a Canadian company helping hoteliers basically outfit their businesses, everything from the clocks, the TVs, the radios, the phones. When hospitality rebounds, we rebound. So, it's been very good this year. It was good last year. It's better this year, and directly tied to how hospitality is doing. To me, it's making relationships. The trade show, to me, is a very small part of this conference. It's more what you're doing after the trade shows and in-betweens and the conversations you're having.
I think during COVID, what people loved doing and kind of like naturally geared towards, they wanted to be out more in the nature, like those kind of things. Last year, for example, we run our adventure tourism outfitting spots from start of June to end of September. All of them were full. Hi, my name is Ashmita Lamichane, and I'm a marketing specialist for Air Borealis, and by extension, the touring at Base Camp as well. Coming to conferences like this, does that help you? Oh yeah, absolutely. Networking with people. So far, I've had 2 or 3 companies that do provide hiring services reach out to us and then kind of do their pitch and how they can be of help. So I've had conversations with multiple people just today. So yeah, conferences like this certainly do help.
Alabama's Supreme Court has ruled that frozen embryos can be considered children legally. The ruling could have a big impact on fertility treatments and the freezing of embryos.
If this fertilized egg is now a child, can we freeze them? Who is potentially criminally liable? Is it the people who created those embryos? Maybe it's the embryologist, or maybe it's somebody in the fertility clinic. We simply don't know.
A large Alabama hospital has paused IVF treatments because of this decision. It was issued in a wrongful death case brought by couples who had frozen embryos destroyed in an accident at a fertility clinic. The court ruled that a 152-year-old law allowing parents to sue over the death of a minor applies to all unborn children. One judge cited the Bible in that decision. Law and Order is coming to Toronto, the television program, that is.
Okay, so what are we thinking?
That alibi has to be fabricated.
And pull at the seams.
A Toronto version of the popular TV series premieres tomorrow on a Canadian network. It's called Law and Order Toronto: Criminal Intent and is set in the city. Most of the cast members are Canadian and some plots will be pulled from Canadian headlines. Okay, so time for a look now at the long-range forecast. What is on the way?
Well, we're going to show you tomorrow because that's kind of the start of the next, obviously the start of the next couple days, but weather-wise, I mean. Let's take a look at your temperatures for your Thursday, tomorrow. That's the day. We're looking at temperatures below zero, so for the most part, we'll see that snow start. It'll change over to, several hours of freezing rain for most of eastern Newfoundland, but eventually we will see those temperatures warm up, and that will happen as we get into Friday. Up across Labrador, this is the start of some milder temperatures for you as well. Most anywhere from about 0 to -3. Nain, you're going to hang on to those temperatures in the minus double digits for a little while longer. But if we take a look at your evening hours on Thursday, this is when the majority of that weather will move in. Again, temperatures will start to warm up as we get into Friday morning. It will move through fairly quickly, that area of low pressure. So by mid-morning, that's pretty much all said and done. We should actually start to see some clearing. That will be the story through central, and then some snow will move in up across Labrador as well, particularly the west and the north, but it will work its way towards central areas of Labrador as we get into the afternoon hours on Friday. Again, another relatively mild day. These temperatures are anywhere from about 10 to as much as 12 degrees above where you should be sitting this time of year. Nain, you'll be hovering around -10, and then temperatures across the island, like I said, anywhere from 0 to about +3, and they're going to get even warmer as we look at the long range. St. Anthony, you'll stay in the cold, cooler air at about -3 through the day, and again, some flurries will linger as the afternoon rolls through. Friday evening into Saturday, that snow will work its way across Labrador as we see our next weather maker move in. This one will see the warm up all across the island. Temperatures well above where we should be sitting this time of year, and could bring some significant rain as well to the southwestern portion of the island. So I'm definitely keeping my eye on that one. Your daytime highs 3 to 7 degrees up across Labrador, even getting into some of that milder air as well. 1 to 2 degrees will be your afternoon high. Long range forecasts right through Sunday. Temperatures will be above 0. We'll drop back down on Monday with that potential for some flurries. And then for central Newfoundland, you'll drop back down on Sunday with some nice weather, actually, Sunday and Monday. And your daytime highs in western Newfoundland will hover somewhere between -2 and -7 as we head into next week. Now for eastern Labrador, cooling back down on Sunday, and a bit of a roller coaster for you. And then for western Labrador, you are looking at your temperatures around -11 on Sunday, and then warming up again by the time we get into Monday. But look, your drop down to the -30s again for Monday night. This shot, beautiful photo of the, it's just magical, isn't it? Cobbler's
Really is.
Path on a sunny day. Lynn shared this shot with us. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, that is stunning. Thank you so much for that. All right, well, Ashley, it's nice to have you back in the studio. We mentioned earlier, and if you saw the show last night, you would know that, Ashley, you were in Centerville, Wareham, Trinity, and Indian Bay last night for their annual Winter Carnival.
Yeah, and the turnout again was absolutely incredible. They have events all week, and even people who left the province come back for it each year, which is incredible. They don't want to miss it. And I want to thank everybody in the CWT Indian Bay area for the warm welcome. We definitely had a lovely time.
Yes, and if you were watching last night, you would have noticed that we did have some connection issues happen sometimes when you're in a place where there are a lot of cell phone signals in the one area. So that's why you were outside rather than broadcasting from inside the toasty warm town hall. So we're going to leave you now with some scenes from last night's dinner and dance. And you may even spot Ashley in the crowd. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.
From the past